this, you know. We didn't do anything.
What am I here for?
I don't know what did we do to deserve all this.
I'm Kylee Zemple, assistant editor at the Federalist, here with Evita Duffy, and we've been on the ground in Kenosha today, covering the day that President Trump came to meet with business owners. There was a Trump rally, or just a lot of Trump supporters there for his visit, as well as some counter-protesters downtown, a lot of them supporting Black Lives Matter.
The saddest part was the destruction that we've seen in Kenosha. Right now we're behind the Danish Brotherhood. This is uptown Kenosha, and it's been hit probably the hardest in the town. There are a few areas in downtown Kenosha that were hit pretty bad, but most of downtown Kenosha was protected because there was a police presence by the courthouse. So this area was really hurt hard. I think the most interesting thing that we saw was among the BLM protesters was a real lack of enthusiasm for Biden. That was some of the questions that we asked them was, are you excited to vote in November? And what they said was, we are more anti-Trump than pro-Biden. So that's interesting. And what we saw on the Trump side was a lot of enthusiasm for the president. People waving flags and hats and t-shirts and excited for him. Whereas, people who are going to be voting for Biden weren't as excited for their candidate.
It was then interesting to talk to a lot of the protesters who expressed that maybe while they didn't condone the rioting, that it can't be compared with the loss of life, and that maybe they just didn't have quite as much sympathy for the business owners because of, the movement is dealing with the loss of life, and so the loss of property is, small in comparison. So lots of different opinions, lots of different sentiment, and lots of political opinions today. So we will keep you all posted. Check out all of our videos and footage on Twitter and over at the Federalist YouTube channel.
So behind me is Car Source. We interviewed last week Sam, and we just did it again about an hour ago. The owner of this business, an Indian immigrant who had his American dream destroyed by BLM arsonists 2 nights in a row. And one of the things that Sam talked about was how officers didn't have enough resources to protect private businesses like his, and only had enough reinforcements to protect the public buildings. So you can see right here is where Sam's building was burned, and right there is the high school, and across the street is the courthouse, which were protected by officers and by National Guardsmen. But obviously Sam was left to the mercy of the mob, and so this is actually one of the reasons why people are so upset with Governor Evers for not bringing in more reinforcements, because people like Sam might have been protected if we had had more men here helping out in Kenosha, but unfortunately it didn't go that way. And the public buildings are safe, but people like Sam have had their life dreams destroyed.
So can you just tell me a little bit about yourself? What are your names, and are you from Kenosha? Or
Yeah, my name is Tom Graham. This is my wife Irene. We are from Kenosha. I live right up the street, about 10 blocks. This was my business, Rhodey's Camera Shop.
And how long have you had this business here?
The business has existed since 1911. It has been owned by 3 generations of John Rhodey's. Okay, so John Rhodey's first, second, and third. We bought the business in 2012 from John Rhodey III. Well, we did a lot of school photography as well as high-volume school printing for other photographers. So that was probably our biggest thing. The other thing we did was sports photography, youth sports photography. We did a lot of the local school or sports leagues around here, Castle Soccer, Boys and Girls Club, Lakeland Little League. So those were our two big things.
So you knew pretty much everybody in the community, and they knew you.
Oh yeah, yes, it's a very good, close community, I think, and you know, most of our customers we knew by name. You know, they come in quite often. John Rhodey III called me. He was down here, and he called me and he said the building is completely engulfed in flames. And being that there was a curfew and I wasn't about to come down here, I waited till the next morning, and I did walk down to the corner at 5 o'clock in the morning. There were still flames coming out of the roof.
So is all of your equipment stored here?
Everything, absolutely everything. I'm almost 64 years old, and to put all that effort into rebuilding and getting the lab equipment and everything, the customers back, I just don't think I have it in me anymore. We need to heal, and we need to work together as a community, and no more divisions. We need to work together.
Totally awesome.
So I have one more question for you. Yes. Do you know, there's obviously there are violent people that are mixed into the protest. Who are they, and where do you think they're coming from? Obviously you said, you don't think Kyle, was from out of state, but there are other people who are burning down buildings in Kenosha too. So who are these people? Are they part of BLM? Are they part of, where do you think that they're from?
So as far as like buildings being looted and burned down, and I wasn't here to see that type of energy, I can't fully speak to that. But what I can speak is to our knowledge of what riots and burning down buildings have done. And I would say, I don't want to go ahead and say, well, I'm not going to say it was Black Lives Matter, I'm not going to say it was outside agitators. I wasn't here to witness the energy. However, riots work, burning down buildings works, and it gets the attention of people to make real change. That's what we had to do in the civil rights movement. That's what we had to do during Stonewall. It's what we had to do for women's rights. Okay. People that aren't white cis males wouldn't have rights if it weren't for burning down a fucking building. And I'm sorry for swearing, but that's true.
And I agree that burning down buildings does get a lot of attention. That's true.
Oh, but to answer the original question, I don't know who did it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to speak one way or the other because I'm not sure.
What are your thoughts on a lot of the minority businesses that have been burned across, like right over here, Car Source? Is an Indian immigrant whose business was burned. What do we have to say for those people who obviously are minorities but are being targeted by these riots or protests or outsiders? What are your thoughts on those people who are being affected?
Right. I mean, my heart goes out to them. I can't say one way or the other about, like, I mean, I feel bad for them. I feel really bad for them. I truly do. And it sucks that in today's day and age, minority buildings are still being burned down during stuff like this because of police brutality.
Okay.
So it's unfortunate that it happened, and I don't want to say it needed to happen, but it did. And I can't say more than I'm sorry. I'm not the one that lit the match. I'm not the one that put 7 shots in the back of an unarmed black man.
Gotcha.
So,
all right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Everybody wants to try to act like when people say Black Lives Matter, they say all lives don't matter. That is insane, all right? And that is ignorant to even think that we would be saying Black Lives Matter, meaning that nobody else's life matters. What Black Lives Matter means is that we want our life to matter just as much as everybody else that matters. And that's it.
When I lost my dad to police, my dad did something wrong. I still love the police. My team hands out flags to the police. My guy just handed an officer a flag.
But you got to understand the real treatment that happens in our communities just from being from our color. Okay, so you see the difference that a white police officer, how they would treat you, over they would treat someone of color. First, we got to acknowledge there is a racial problem. Once we get over that, then we can start talking about everything else.
I never saw the split, my brother. I never saw that split. What I saw was they looked at me because I was in a bad neighborhood with tattoos and I was doing dumb stuff as a kid, and they said, no, you're just as bad as everybody else.
But do you see that you have more privilege than me?
No, I know.
So you don't think that you have more privilege than me?
No.
Okay. So that's the first problem. But he just said that he don't have white privilege, and then he thinks that he doesn't have white privilege.
I think the phrase white privilege is something of complete arrogance.
I do too.
The fact that anybody has any privilege over anybody because of their skin color, you seem to mistake the fact that we have American privilege. In this country, if you work your ass off, go to school, graduate, take a job, any fucking job, get married, have kids, you're gonna live a nice life. I don't care what color you are, where you came from.
Exactly.
That's not true.
I'm not
true. It's not true. So here's the problem and why we can't get nowhere with this conversation. Is because you guys don't acknowledge that you have a level of privilege just because you have lighter skin.
I mean, that's a little racist, don't you think?
What's racist?
That only white people have to acknowledge a part of this conversation? We have to acknowledge something, then we can move forward?
Listen,
How
do
about
you
y'all
understand?
split this? Let's have some common
split
ground.
what? Do you understand why people are even saying that they've been oppressed in this country for 400 years?
Yeah,
do you understand what
believe
your
the bullshit.
ancestors? You understand what your ancestors have done in this
NBA.
country?
How many guys in the NBA
Do
are
you
oppressed?
understand what your ancestors have
Don't
done?
throw all of our
How many
answers.
NBA
Again, you're
guys?
judging us
Come
all as
on.
white.
What is it like being, a younger person and a black voice for Trump?
It's hard for me. I personally feel like black people are being used. We've seen the pain. Black people have gone through pain in our city. I grew up in the inner city and I still live in the inner city. So to me, the Democrats are using black people and they're trying to buy the black vote. Obviously, there is injustice. There's racial injustice, and I feel like Democrats play on just the pain and the hurt in our communities, and I feel like what they do is they exploit it. Now, as you're seeing it and you're seeing it and you're seeing it, what it does is it gets you fired up, and you're just like, yeah, I'm mad. Yeah, I want to change. Yeah, it's time for a change. It's like, are you ready for a change? And you're like, yeah, I'm ready for a change. Well, I can help you make that change. And so you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll vote for you. But the truth of the matter is they're not gonna help you make that change. What are you gonna do to help me accomplish that change? Burn a building up? Defund the police so that they won't respond to my calls? Because they're not responding to my calls right now. The welfare programs that they've been doing, they sound nice. They sound appealing. But when you do research, they're not. When you try to get off of welfare, when you want to do something better for your family, you can't. My husband was working 2 jobs to support our family. That means that he was making just too much for us to qualify for welfare. That means that he couldn't get on welfare. So that means if you want to get out of a bad neighborhood, if you want to get out the hood, you all black people, you know what I'm talking about. If you want to do better, if you want to get into a nice white neighborhood, you can't. You have to be a Democrat. You have to be poor forever. So yeah, no, I don't want to be a Democrat anymore. The truth of the matter is Democrats want to keep you poor forever. They want to keep you broke forever, but they want to make it look pretty and they want to make it look nice. So no, I'm not a Democrat, and people don't seem to understand that. But one day, they're gonna get tired of being broke and they'll understand.
So did you used to be a Democrat?
Yeah, at one point. I mean, when Black Lives Matter first came out, I was like, yeah, Black Lives Matter, okay, let's make a change, let's make a difference. But then when I looked into it and I did some research, they said, yeah, we're about taking apart the nucleus of a family. Do some research. I encourage everybody to do some research. Go to your Black Lives Matter website and do some research. At the end of the day, the reason these Democrats are succeeding is because it's all about the hype. That's what it comes down to. All in my social media page, I get mad. I get mad because every clip I see is about a cop beating a black person, and I get mad. I get mad, but at the end of the day, that's been going on my whole life. I've been seeing that my whole life. That's nothing new. What I want to know what's new is, what are you going to do to change it? What are we going to do that's different? Because that's nothing new. Democrats, you're not telling me something I don't know. I grew up in the hood. So tell me something new. What are you going to do to change it? If you tell me, okay, listen, I'm a Democrat and this is what we're going to do to change your neighborhood and better it, then I'll get excited. But if you're telling me that you're going to burn down my neighborhood, I went to Kenosha. I went to Kenosha and I cleaned up.
Can we get your names?
Sure, this is Sonia.
Sonia.
Amber.
Amber.
Ashley.
Ashley.
Ryan and baby Ryan.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi.
So why are you guys out here?
We're out here to see the President of the United States.
Are you from Kenosha?
We're from Kenosha. We live a few blocks that way.
Okay, how do you feel about everything that's been going on here the last couple weeks?
Well, I think we've been terrorized a lot. And I think our governor let us down. I think our mayor let us down. And Trump is the only one that's doing it for us.
What do you think that the mayor and the governor should have done differently?
First night, I think they should have sent in a National Guard for the first night to make sure all was calm and kept calm. The second night, Governor Evers decided to send us 150 troops, which what was that going to do? He also gave them orders directly not to protect citizens or businesses, and they were only to protect the courthouse, and I guess they started to protect firefighters to put out fires. But that's it, 150 is like a slap in the face.
Have you been personally affected by what's happened downtown as far as the businesses and things like that?
No, we do run a small business here in Kenosha. Unfortunately, our business was not affected by it.
Okay. What do you think the community can do during this time? Do you think that they need to get together or
I think unity is definitely good. I think that rebuilding would be great, especially the uptown area. It would be nice to see that even refurbished and, brought up. It's obviously gone downhill in a lot of years, but they've tried to, they're putting more businesses there, and I think it'd be nice to see them rebuild there, especially. And it's sad that a lot of businesses are losing revenue down there because they're not able to stay open past like 6, 7 o'clock. That they built up that downtown beautiful down there, small businesses, and it's terrible that, people are losing so much money.
What do you think is going to be the effect of the president being here today? Do you think there's going to be a fallout, or are you not worried about that?
Oh, no, not at all. I think that this is positive. I think that this shows that we're moving forward and we can all just get along. It doesn't matter. I support Trump. They obviously support Biden. We're standing right next to each other.
That's great. Do you think that everything that's been going on in Kenosha will have a significant effect on the 2020 election, or do you not see that happening?
I do. I feel like a lot of people have turned on Governor Evers, who's a Democrat, and now will maybe come over to, be Republicans and maybe vote for Trump and maybe decide that that's the way to go.
Wisconsin's an important state, so we'll see what happens.
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
What brings you out here today in Kenosha?
Just a lot of the unrest and a lot of the injustice that's been going on. Just really tired of it. And then the fact too that Donald was here today. Decided it was really important today, especially to get out there and make all of our voices heard.
So what do you think? Why do you think that Governor Evers and obviously yourself don't want Trump here in Kenosha? What do you think the effects of his presence is going to have?
So our resources are already spread really thin with all of the unrest that's been going on. We have people around here who, they're trying to take care of a lot of different things right now. So him coming here, him taking our resources just so he can have a photo op is irresponsible.
So you think that we need more resources? Do you mean you think we need more National Guard and more officers here?
No, I think what I'm saying is he doesn't need to come here to spread these resources thinner. They are fine just the way they are, and him coming here just is going to make it worse.
So are you from Kenosha? Or?
Yep, I live here.
So were you here witnessing the demonstrations, especially the ones at night that kind of escalated, or were you there for that? And what did you see?
This is my first day actually out protesting. It's the first day I've felt comfortable doing so. I've been doing most of my protesting on Facebook, commenting on all of the KPD posts, every single one that they've done, commenting on a lot of other sites in support of Biden and Harris. But yeah, this is my first day out here. I do live about 1 block though from where the Rittenhouse shooting happened. And so I did actually hear all of that, and that was a little too close for me.
So you mentioned Biden and Harris, and Biden recently has said that he doesn't, or he's denounced violent rioting. What are your thoughts on Biden? Are you all for him and you're excited to vote, or what?
So I'm definitely pro-Biden. Because I'm anti-Trump.
Okay, because you're anti-Trump. But do you think that you're like excited? Was he your first pick?
He was not my first pick, but I do think that he has changed a lot of what he has said to definitely fit more of the liberal agenda that we want to see moving forward, the more of the equality agenda that everyone is fighting for.
So you think that he was kind of not there at the beginning, and then he's kind of become the candidate that you want him to be?
I think he's really listening. He's really trying his hardest, and I think he's actually a really good candidate pick because he is a little bit more middle ground, and I think a lot of people on both sides of the party spectrum are going to have an easier time voting for him than they would have for, say, like Bernie.
Right. Okay. And then one more question on Harris, because obviously there's been a lot of talk, especially in the Democratic Party, is Harris is a cop, that kind of meme going around because of her history as a prosecutor. What do you think of her in relation to this whole Black Lives Matter movement and defunding the police?
So I think a lot of people are just trying to dig up bad things about her without realizing what she was actually doing at the time, the kinds of things that she was trying to push forward, while also the fact that everyone changes over time. Our agendas change over time. The way we think, the way we do things changes over time, and a lot of people are just clinging to things that she's done in her past that maybe she wouldn't do now. And I think that is a weird dynamic, and I think people need to move away from that because I think she's going to be a great candidate.
Awesome.
You want it? Yeah. All right, fuck it.
Okay. So are you guys from Kenosha or from out of town?
We're from Kenosha.
Okay, and how do you feel about what's been going on here this past week?
I mean, it just sucks that everybody just went right to the outrage. There was no, like, due process or anything. They just decided to burn the whole town for a convicted rapist, and I just don't think it was justified at all. Kyle Rittenhouse, he defended himself, and everybody wanted to go after him for protecting himself and the town.
How do you feel about President Trump being here today?
Very supportive.
That's awesome.
You seem pretty excited.
Yeah, I'm just like excited to see a leader of the greatest country in the world. Like, it's a once in a lifetime experience for some people, and I'm just super excited.
What do you think is going to be the effects of him being here today? Do you think there'll be any fallout? Do you think?
I think it'll push further for Evers, for him to get out. I forgot what it's called. Recalled. Because he's done a shit job with all this. He waited too long, and he did too little too late.
What do you think he should have done?
He should have brought in the National Guard and had them armed. He brought in 125 at first, and they weren't even armed. Like, what if they were there to protect the fire department and they weren't armed? What were they supposed to do?
Have you been personally affected by the rioting downtown, as far as, personal belongings or family businesses or anything like that?
I can't say I have, besides just the fact that, like, as a community, it's affected me. But me personally, it hasn't.
None of us have
But
personally lost
it definitely hurts the community. And it's just good to see people down there, like, maintaining, like, trying to rebuild after all these, like, riots.
Have you seen a lot of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff are people doing?
They're just painting murals all over like the boarded up windows. They're helping rebuild, clean. I mean, I'm not an artist myself, but like we're just helping clean up and stuff.
Okay. They pointed at you. Do you have a vested interest downtown?
My dad probably wouldn't want me to say 'cause he's afraid of his business like getting destroyed. So it's definitely real down there.
Okay. Thanks so much for your time, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Are you ladies from Kenosha?
We are.
You're from Kenosha,
We
okay.
are.
And how do you feel about just the events of this past week and the businesses, and what's your take on all of it?
I think violence doesn't have a place anywhere, anytime, period.
So how do you feel about the president coming here today?
We're super excited to see him. We super support him, and we're so glad that he's coming.
And what do you think the effect will be? Do you think that things will escalate? Do you see them staying the same after his visit?
You know what? It could go either way, and it depends on.
It's already escalated. These are punching police in the face downtown. So that's the kind of people we're dealing with, Zemple.
What do you think that local officials and the governor and just people in Wisconsin can do, aside from the president coming? What can they do to make things better?
Tony Evers can resign because he's useless, and so can the deputy governors. What they can do, put someone in office who wants to take care of things.
And they need to take time to understand what the real issues are and not make it something it's not.
What do you mean by that?
All these people coming out and they are making it into more of an issue regarding
race.
They're making it race.
We're here for Trump.
We're here for Trump. Exactly.
Black
Exactly.
Lives Matters has nothing to do with Trump.
Right.
He's not the cause of any of this.
That's right.
It's stupid people are.
Do you think that the events of this past week will have a significant effect on the 2020 election? Or do you think people are just decided and it is what it is?
No, I think it will definitely have an impact on the
it'll
election.
change some people's minds. Yes, I do.
In what way?
I would say more in favor of Trump because he actually stepped in and did something, and everyone else is so afraid to say anything. Nothing's going to take care of him. And he just said it and took care of it. It's our community right now. We don't want that.
And how do you feel about people who are not from Kenosha coming in? Do you think that they should be here showing their support? Do you wish that they would stay out of it?
They're here burning down buildings, so absolutely they have no business being here.
People
half
here
of them don't even know what they're here for. They're just here to steal and destroy, and we don't need them here.
No worries.
So are you guys both from Kenosha?
No, I'm from Chicago.
From Chicago, okay. Mexico. Okay, you're all the way from New Mexico. So what inspired you to come out here today?
Basically, we wanted to be out here because of the fact that Donald Trump was coming here in order to give money to the Kenosha Police Department and to observe all the damages and whatnot. And so we knew that there was going to be a lot of Trump supporters here too. And we have about 60 days until the election. I think it's really important to be out here and show support towards BLM and just have a generally peaceful protest and show that just because we have a president who's trying to incite violence and is trying to divide us more doesn't mean it has to be that way.
So what are you guys here to support? BLM, you said that. So what are your thoughts about Biden's recent statements denouncing violence in relation to riots that have happened this summer, specifically here in Kenosha?
See, with Biden, I think that there seemed to be basically saying that we condemn violence on every side and that we only support peaceful protests. I understand the sentiment. Obviously, the burning down of, the what was it called? The cars and everything, all these things. Obviously, that is horrible. That's not something that we necessarily stand for. But I don't think it's necessarily fair of Biden to kind of equate it and basically say what happened with Kyle and what happened with those two men who were murdered and what happens with burning property. I don't think that's the same because property is not the same as human lives.
Well, there was somebody killed in Portland too.
That's true.
So
yeah, I agree, and I don't condone that either. I don't think violence is a good thing at all, and I'm not going to try to defend it. But I will say that I don't think it's fair to say you should fight violence with peace because it's not how it goes.
A lot of people that I've talked to have said that burning down buildings is bad and we don't like it, but it also gets people's attention. Do you have a thought on that?
I mean, I think that it is fair to say that the point of protesting is because just talking it out hasn't worked. it's because there has been some level of people being ignored and mayors and different government officials not really listening. And so I do think that like it is fair to say it is, you know, taking it a bit more extreme to get attention. But like I said, I'm not going to say that I necessarily support that.
Yeah. So I have one more question for you. Do you have something you want to say?
No, I'm just saying, look, it's, you know, if you just think about the long history of this country, 400 years of oppression on black and brown people, and people have tried voting, people have tried community policing, people have tried, you know, body cameras and citizen review boards, and people risked a lot over this long history. And what has changed? You know, they say Black Lives Matter, but even after George Floyd, they saying there's change is coming, but look where we are now. People are still dying in the streets. You got white supremacists murdered, you know, 2 of our brothers. I mean, this is, you know, where's the humanity in that, you know? And look, I'm not advocating for anything, but you also, you know, this whole thing where they're saying that it's, you know, people are destroying, you know, it's destroying communities and neighbors. What about the lives that they destroy here and around the world, what this country does? You know, the wars of empire, you know, you got Trump, you know, who's told the people at Charlottesville that they're very fine people. You know, what about the dreams and hopes that they steal from people around the world? That's destroying people's lives, you know? And what about all their fucked up trade deals, you know, all the ways that they try to get over on these Latin America countries and arrogantly referring to them as their backyard. I mean, there's this long history of this white supremacy. And I think that people should ask the question, what system gives rise to a Donald Trump? People need to ask those kind of questions. You know, what system, you know, where it can give rise to a white supremacist and say this is okay? You know, and people are saying another 4 more years. 4 more years of what? You know, look what happened in these 4 years, and people are saying they want more? I mean, what's going to happen to the people of the world? What's going to happen to this planet if this lunatic is allowed to stay in office for another 4 more years? So I think people need to ask the question, how did we get here? Well, look at the long history of this country. So I'm just adding some of the things, you know, what she was saying, you know.
Yeah. So, you know, obviously what's happened in Kenosha is going to be very impactful on the election because Wisconsin is an important swing state. Do you think that people like you guys and the other people that are here are excited to get out and vote for Biden?
I think that it's like, me personally, I'm less pro-Biden and I'm more anti-Trump, if that makes sense. So yes, it is going to be important. Like, where I'm from in Chicago, it is a blue state, so either way, like, you know, how the electoral college goes, it's going to go hopefully to Biden. But yeah, no matter what, I do want Trump out. And that's what the bottom line is, you know, because without Trump out, we're just going to continue having COVID cases spreading rampantly. But I'm not going to pretend like everything's going to be, you know, amazing and peachy once Biden gets it, because there's a lot of work to do.
So you would agree to that, you know, it's not that we're pro-Biden, but we're anti-Trump.
Look, you know, this statement is from, you know, Bob Evita, on the immediate critical situation, the urgent need to drive out the fascist Trump regime, voting in this election, and the fundamental need for revolution. Look, I'm a revolutionary communist, and we're getting organized for an actual revolution, but the prospects of revolution are going to be greatly diminished or outright annihilated if this regime isn't driven from power. You know, if this regime remains in power, anybody who stands for anything, you know, righteous, for anything good, for any, you know, social program, you know, that's trying to address things, all that's going to be crushed or outright annihilated. You can't have dissent under fascism. So, you know, as far as we need to use every tool at our disposal. You know, we're saying, look, September 5th, you know, we're saying people need to get out to the streets. You know, national protests every day till this regime is driven from power. If that doesn't happen, yeah, people should vote to drive this regime from power, because it's not about Biden as some champion for the people. You know, he's not. He's a, you know, a war criminal himself. You know, he's all the policies and the stuff that he stands for, but he's not a fascist. So that's the difference between him and Trump. He's not a fascist.
So you're saying that you're ready for the revolution, and that's something that you want to see in the future. Do you think that Biden can be used to push this revolutionary agenda that you guys have?
No.
Or no, you don't think so?
No. Look, we're not giving up on the prospects of revolution. Me speaking as a member of the Revolution Club, this is part of making revolution, is going through these intense situations and coming out and wrenching the freedom and the necessity from these situations. So look, again, we don't see Biden as a champion of the people, and he definitely is not, for a revolution, but once again, he's not a fascist.
Right, I agree. I think that the main difference is that Biden isn't going to take to Twitter and incite violence and try to start a civil war. And I mean, Biden still represents like the Washington establishment in a lot of ways. He's pro-fracking, and he was the one who wrote like the '94 crime bill. So there's a lot that I think is pushed on us about like that he's the most progressive candidate, and I want that to stop, and I want the vote shaming to stop. But I think that when it really comes down to it, it is going to come to like, do we want to let a fascism regime like continue for another 4 years? And that's a no.
Who are you going to vote for in this upcoming election? A lot of people have different opinions about.
I don't know who I'm voting for. I'm definitely not voting for Trump.
Yeah.
And it's going to be I'm not voting for Trump. That's the basis of what my voting is.
Yeah.
This is my first presidential election, and I actually just turned 20 today. So.
Okay, awesome.
In 2016, I was only 16 years old. I campaigned for Bernie in 2016, and I campaigned for Bernie Sanders in 2020. In this past year, I worked in his campaign team in my home city and home state.
So were you disappointed with how?
I was very disappointed.
Yeah.
It was definitely blowing to me to watch him lose.
How do you think that that Biden is going to do with getting out people who are activists like you in the Democratic Party?
I think that most people who are activists in the Democratic Party are probably going to go out and vote for Biden because the violence and the lies and the hate that comes from the Trump administration continually for the past 4 years, from his ban on countries that are mostly Muslim to the Trump rallies that we've seen where people get injured, counter protesters get injured, and violence is incited, to Charlottesville where white supremacists came out in full force and brawled with anti-fascist protesters. I think that it's very important for people to come out and vote. Again, it's going to be really hard for me to vote for Biden just because I'm very anti-establishment. I think that the Democratic Party also has its flaws, a lot of different flaws within it that create a disturbance. That's why the Democratic Party is so divided, just as the Republican Party is so divided.
Right.
But it's going to come down to like the last week of me deciding. It's going to be hard. If I don't vote for Biden, it's going to be for the Green Party. It's just hard for me to decide who to vote for because I do live in a swing state. I was in Wisconsin. I live in Michigan.
Right.
Michigan and Wisconsin are both swing states. They're both of them went to Trump in 2016. They went for Obama in 2008 and 2012. Bernie Sanders won it in 2016 in the primaries, and Hillary Clinton was polling really high in 2016 against Trump. So it was a really blowing loss for the Democratic Party.
I came to Kenosha because I thought that my voice would make a difference. I am the CEO and the founder of the No More Foundation in Chicago. Right now, I'm not really in support of any of the candidates right now because I don't know that what they're talking about is sincere. And I feel like the way the country is headed right now, we need someone that's going to come out and make a difference, and that's actually for all people. And until I find out that that's what it is, I'm not sure who I'm going to support at that point.
Brandon Harris, ma'am. They call me the tattooed conservative.
Okay, awesome. Why are you out here today?
I support my president. I've thrown 590 Trump rallies across the country. I was there in D.C. for the impeachment hearings, and now I'm here to support my president some more.
Are you from Kenosha area?
Oh, gosh, no. Joliet, Illinois.
Okay.
So I tour around the country. I'm actually down from tour to get a tooth replacement in Illinois. They just shut down my county again. So I can't get a replacement. So I got a little wax tooth and flew my butt up here to see the president.
So you've been around the country and following Trump supporters, essentially.
Oh, yes.
So have you seen an uprise in enthusiasm as stuff has been unfolding, or can you talk a little bit about that?
I've been to Chicago, back and forth to California this week, Nevada, Washington, D.C. Trump supporters are coming up everywhere. myself and a gentleman named Scott Presler and Brandon Straka from Walkaway, Illinois, and then Walkaway nationally have been traveling the country on tour. We've seen nothing but people like this everywhere. I've yet to see 2 Biden supporters show up to a rally.
To Washington twice to march for him. Are you kidding me? I drove an hour to get here.
You did? So where are you from?
I'm Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. How do you feel about what's been going on here the last week?
It's sad. It's sad. It's, Kenosha. Like I said, I'm a couple towns away from Kenosha, and it's just terrible what's happening. And President Trump wanted to help from the beginning, and our wonderful piece of crap governor didn't want to take his help. And when he finally did, as you notice, everything calmed down, and these other governors and mayors of the Democrat cities and towns need to take the president's help so they can stop it. People need help, and Democrats don't want to take the help from them because they don't want to see President Trump achieve anything. They don't give him credit for anything that him and his family has done for our country, and I felt that I needed to be here to show him support from the people of Wisconsin, for myself, because of the sacrifices that he has made for us. This is the least that I can do, is come out and just let him know that I'm here to support him.
Yeah.
Yep.
What do you think do you think there's going to be any fallout from his visit today? Or are you not worried about that?
No. At least not from the Trump people. I don't know about them. Probably from them. I'm not sure. The people that are not Trump supporters.
Of the United States.
Trump people?
He can go wherever he wants and do whatever he wants.
I've been to 7 of his rallies, traveled the United States, and not one riot, not one. I don't care what color you are, what religion you are, what sex you are. We're all together. We love this country. We love our flag. We stand for the flag and no. And when we're together, you don't see any of this stuff happening. So on our side, no, nothing's going to happen. On the other side, I'm not sure.
What do you think? Do you think that the events of this last week are going to have an effect on the 2020 election? And if so, what are they going to be?
What I'm worried about the most is I'm worried about because a lot of people are moving here from Illinois, getting away from the city and stuff, and moving to Wisconsin. And I'm scared that they're still going to vote Democrat. They're going to bring what they left to Wisconsin. That's what I'm worried about the most. Yes. But the true Wisconsinites, the true cheeseheads of Wisconsin, we love our president, and he's got our support 100%.
Wisconsin's an important state.
Yes, at least this cheesehead he does.
Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate
God
it.
bless. Be safe.